Good afternoon. I'm with Sranan Gold. Sranan is listed on the CSE in Canada, and it's a gold exploration company focused on Suriname. I'm with basically the entire team here. We have the CEO, the VP of Exploration, and technical advisor. All right, let's start with you, Oscar. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the mining industry.
Yeah, morning, Robert. My background is in investment banking. I spent the last 20 or so years in London, was part of a Canadian banking outfit that focused on resource financing. Back in 2010, one of our corporate clients who had a phosphate deposit in Uzbekistan asked me to join them to do the capital markets bit for them. And from there, I got in touch with a Dutch mining engineer who was working for another Canadian major who was looking to set up a shop. So we joined forces, raised a bit of money, and both being Dutch, we ended up in Suriname, one of the countries that has obviously been forgotten over the last couple of years. So from 2013, started working in Suriname.
All right, very good. Turning to you, Dennis, how did you get into the mining industry?
Well, I've been born in the mining industry, as you can tell, but I've been in Suriname since 2000. I was asked by Alcoa to come to Suriname to find in the gold mine, and so in 2000 I started a program that led to the discovery of what's now the Marion mine. And that was a early stage program. There's no previous work at all. And that's back before we had a lot of the modern technology. GPS was a lot more primitive, no good maps, no LiDAR, et cetera, et cetera. And there'd been no previous work. And so I worked with local geologists, and within 3 years we made a discovery. We relied on geochemistry, as well as working with the local small-scale miners where they drill. And so, like I said, when I got to what's now the Marion mine, that was called Gotebergi, that was found by a Brazilian pork knocker. He started mining there, and the local community discovered that he got good results. They moved in and created a very large and very active gold rush that went on. We came in, set up a camp, started drilling, and that led to the discovery. After about 3 years, I left, and eventually I helped bring Newmont in, and Newmont's the one that developed that into the Marion mine, which is a world-class Tier 1 deposit. And so my team and myself made that discovery. After that, I went over and joined Canvior at Roosevelt, and I ran what's called the Regional Exploration Program. And so that was a self-made department. And the big acquisition I made was with a company called CTEX. And they had a very large land position in the interior, and that had two parts of it. One part was what I would call Sarah Creek, and the other part was Tapanahony. And so actually the Tapanahony Project evolved from that acquisition I made for Roosevelt. And then after I left Roosevelt, went back to consulting. They went over and did significant work at Tapanahony. The concession holder was a good friend of mine, and so when he acquired the data, then that's what led me to recommend making a deal with the new concession holder to acquire the project.
Very good. So you've been involved in Suriname for a quarter century, then?
I've been here, yep. I've been here 25 years at least.
Wow, that's impressive. Rayiez, so you're the VP of Exploration, and the last time we spoke, you were there on the drill with all the mud and getting your hands dirty. So tell us about yourself.
Hi, Rob. Yeah, I'm a local geologist. I graduated from the university here, and I spent my first 8 years working with IM Gold, with the same regional exploration department that Dennis was referring to, where I was involved in a lot of greenfield exploration activities, and the height of those 8 years was the Saramacca deposit, where I worked in the core shack logging and also mapping the surface there. After I left, I joined Dr. LaPoint in a few projects in the Guyana Shield, one of which was the Omai deposit. And then for a year, I've worked with Founders Metals together with Vincent, the chief geologist. And then, by the end of last year, beginning of this year, I joined Dennis and Oscar on the Sranan team. So it's been a quick, what is it now, 12, 13 years, still at the start of my career. But my focus was mainly understanding the weathering and the soil in the tropics for exploration in greenfield settings. And then in the later years at Omai and with Vince and Dennis, we focused more on structural geology and the internal intricacies of these deposits and how to properly drill them. The same thing was applied at Founders Metals too. And we're trying to do the same thing here at the Tapanahony Project.
Okay, very good. Thank you, gentlemen. So let's go back to Oscar and talk about, Suriname as a mining jurisdiction. I mean, obviously, look, we know that Suriname has gold. I think we've been finding gold there for over 100 years.
Yeah.
Probably more than that. What is the reason for this, revival in terms of gold mining and gold exploration in Suriname, Oscar?
Yeah, revival. I mean, gold has always been mined in Suriname for hundreds of years. If you look at the activity on the small scale miners all across the country, there's approximately 1,000 kilos of gold mined each month by the local communities. The recent activity from juniors moving in, started with founders again. Dennis and I worked on one project 10 years ago, which we brought to the market, which is still listed. And then it was a bit quiet, but founders really opened up the country again with their success. So that's why Dennis and I got in touch again and found this project. And now one after the other is moving into Suriname.
Why would you say that Suriname sort of, I mean, it wasn't dormant, obviously, as you say. There's always been gold mining going on there, but it wasn't, a country that was in the headlines,
No,
let's say.
No, it wasn't, indeed. I mean, it's a Dutch-speaking country. It had some issues back in the 80s that ran on for quite some time. About 5-6 years ago, there was a change in government that really opened up the country more than it was before.
I see.
I think.
Go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, I think it's more reflection of the industry. First of all, Suriname is not well recognized by North Americans. As Oscar says, it's Dutch speaking, and so if you ask most Americans where is Suriname, they have no idea. And but I think it's also a reflection of the hard times in the junior sector. And I've been involved with a number of juniors and trying to bring a number of juniors into the country. And you're based on success, and most opportunities in Suriname are early stage with little or no drilling, and so everybody's looking for projects that have some good drill results, and so that's why founders came into Antino, because there have been two other phases of drilling. And there's active small scale mining, so you could see where the mineralization was. And here at Tapanahony, we had the work that was done by IM Gold that had positive results. And so junior companies like to have a project that has some drill results. And of course, we're going to run out of those. You know, we have to get down to more of the green holes there.
Yeah, all of them have been taken now.
All right. So I think it's a reflection of the junior markets. And then, of course, the new gold price doesn't hurt. And the success of founders doesn't hurt. And we have 2 tier 1 mines. We have the Marion mine that I discovered, and we have Roosevelt that I've worked on. And so it's very productive, and then Rees mentioned Omai. I went back to Omai and restarted that program with the help of Rees, and that's another very interesting deposit. You know, so both the Guyana Shield, both Guyana and Suriname were very productive.
Okay, so let's talk about the Tapanahony Project. So really large land position, 29,000 hectares. That's a big boy. And even the area that you're focusing now is a 4,500 meter strike extent, and you're just at one end of it right now. You're starting just at one end. So this is a big project with a lot of scale potential. So Rayiez, tell us about the Tapanahony Project and phase 1.
Yeah. As mentioned before, Robert, we started the project on the back of you know, data from the previous operator, where they kind of they did some really good panning in the past, which was followed up by solid geochem, and they did, you know, 4,000 meters of drilling. And the Tapanahony area, that structure there, it sits really close to a contact, you know, between the greenstones and a batholith to the west. The batholith that's, you know, basically sitting in the middle of the river at the Dritabacha, which is the capital of the Tapanahony River. And the structure, which we have now drilled, we can see that it's intensely deformed and really high, you know, tectonic strain in there, because it's a myelinite, which is, you know, sitting, you know, right in the basalts. I'm probably oversimplifying it, but what was good to see is that the larger scale interpretation of the geology and the timing is something that we're seeing again all the way into drill core now. So, you know, it's a robust system, and as you said, we can see it on multiple data sets that the scale of the structure could be in the order of 2 to 5 kilometers, maybe even beyond. But we will need to do more work to unlock all that potential. But we've kind of drilled into one area, and we'll have to systematically work our way around. And, you know, finding gold is one thing, but, you know, building the volume, that's the next thing. So that's the aim. But the setting, which was always recognized by earlier explorers, by artisanal miners, it really shows that it could be a really robust system.
Okay, so you put out results last week, and this was a little bit of a surprise to me. I don't often see companies in the first few holes into a target drill like this. You were 4 for 4. You hit gold in every hole. Hole 25 RADD004. That intersected 17 meters of 10.5 grams per ton gold, starting at 164 meters downhole. Can you tell us about that hole and what made it so special?
That particular hole 4. So when the program started, we kind of double checked some of the previous best drill results. And we already had known from mapping the surface and the saprolite, mapping at Randy's and also at Poeketi, about the strike, the variations, and also the way the structure dips. Hole 3 and 4 were designed basically to pierce the same structure, but at different depths, you know, as hole 1 and 2. And hole 4 in particular was a drop down from 80 to 120 meters. And, you know, when we drilled it, the structure was apparent that the structure was wider than what we had seen in previous holes. And we could really see some really proto-melanitic to melanitic rock, where the silicified altered parts of the basalts were even shared within the fabric, really strong sericite. And, you know, some of these later smoky veins in that 1 meter, 167 to 168 meters, had these free gold flakes within, you know, shear fractures, shear planes. So that was the intent. But what we're trying to see now is where the structure gets wider. Well, we're trying to understand laterally and vertically what that amplitude is and how it varies. But it seems that we were right on the measurements of the structure, and it kind of highlights how important it is to understand the structural geology even in saprolite, because it can help you optimize your drill direction really well. So that was the intent with hole 4, and it was wider than we expected, which is double win.
Yeah, you hit that same host essentially in holes 1, 2, 3, and in 4. And in hole 4, it's thickening at depth. Going to Dennis, can you explain to us non-technical people the importance of myelinite here to host the gold?
Sure. Well, myelinite is extremely deformed rock. It can have a variety of hosts. It's like an ancient fault system. And so within the fault system, the rock keeps getting crushed against each other. And so the grains break up and form this fine fabric called a myelinite. And that's also releases a lot of the fluids. And those fluids can, besides having the silica that forms the quartz veins, can carry gold and other metals. And so these shear zones are the conduits for the gold mineralization. And then besides that, we have both the intense shearing along the fault, but then you get low pressure zones. We call them tension veins, and those quite often carry really the high grade gold values. And those tension veins can then get sucked up into that same fault zone, and incorporated that, get remobilized, and that's what makes a good gold deposit is multiple phases of deformation, faulting, and fluid flow. Is that simple enough?
Yeah, I get it. So the faulting and the fluid flow is key for gold deposition. Is that the summary?
Pretty good. That's good. Yeah.
Okay. So this host, this myelinite host that was intersected in hole 4 that appears to be widening at depth, is that something that you continue to test down dip?
Well, eventually, but we'll look along strike. What we're doing is when we drill a hole like we're doing now, and then from the same drill pad, we can steepen the angle so we can get a second test, which is what Rayiez is doing. And then we'll move on to the next section. So on one section, we can get both a shallower test and then a deeper test.
Right. So you're starting phase 1 drill program at Randy's Pit. Tell us about Randy's Pit, about how big is it, and how many holes do you need to put in there to really get a strong understanding of what's going on there in terms of the structures?
Yeah. So, Randy's pit the pit sits, on the south side of the river. And, the pit itself is actually in between 2 of the historical sections that were drilled. In the Randy's pit, you can see that the saprolite was extensively mined because it's really deep, around 40 to 60 meters deep. Lengthwise, it's 150 meters. And recently, since January this year, there's even some miners making tunnels, supported tunnels into the pit area. So it continues to be attractive for all these small scale miners, and the best indication for gold is gold. But the good thing is that where we started drilling is not under the Randy's pit yet. And south of the Randy's pit, we've also done some surface work with trenching to kind of continue to see and trace the mineralization. And we've used the LiDAR for that, so we could get into saprolite where we could see some structure and get some measurements. So I think the Randy's pit is, the surface expression of something that's much deeper, as we've seen now from the drilling, that it can go really deep, and there is potential for width in the structure itself. and the Randy's pit has been mined. If you look at the size of the excavation, and the way that small scale miners usually work, the efficiency of their sluice box, to me that's a very really healthy indication of what's beneath there. But what I want to note too is that as we've seen on the current holes, the way the structure pinches and swells, we will need to be wary of that when we drill under these pits, because often you have junior explorers drilling on their pits, and it's just not there. It's because they don't understand the structural dynamics of what they're drilling. You can be just 20 meters off of something that's really good, right? So we continuously evaluate, and if there's new exposures or anything new, we map those things and take all the information in. And I think we're, for now, we've planned around 20-25 holes, but it could expand, or it could be less, and we put it in on the other prospects. So that could change.
Okay. So just to be clear, these first 4 holes, were they drilled slightly to the south of Randy's pit?
No, they were drilled to the north of Randy's pit.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, to the north, yeah.
But it's open to the south as well. Is that correct?
It's open to the south as well, and to the north. And from this first fence of drilling, basically, all the way to the trenches that we did is in the order of between 400 and 600 meters of strike length that we've added, surface mineralization that we didn't know about before.
Okay. So in the phase 1 program, you're testing to the north of Randy's pit, you're testing the southeast extension of Randy's pit, and are you also going to go to the west of the pit?
Not immediately, but we might poke holes, because as you've seen in the fence too, that we have some mineralization in the hanging wall, which was 15 meter at I think 1.2 grams per ton, if I'm correct. So we'll also test a little bit further west as we go. But for sure, the immediate structure area, the high damage zone, the Randy's pit, and the extensions will be P1, and then we'll work our way around. Yeah.
Okay. We'll get back to that, but I want to talk about the artisanals right now, because this is something that maybe some North American investors don't understand. How do the artisanals help you to find the gold, and how do you work around them? How deep do they mine? Tell us about that.
Well, let me answer that, because the small scale miners, we call them pork knockers in Suriname. They're actually a very good tool to find gold, and they focus on the soft rock. We call it the saprolite. And so I've actually at the Marion mine, that was one of the primary tools, was where the small scale miners were mining and created this gold rush. And the same thing happened in Poeketi back in 2020, 2021. There's a massive gold rush by the small scale miners that created exposure and created areas that we could sample. So they can be a useful tool. I've always had cooperation with the local miners. As long as they don't disturb our operations, we let them proceed. If we need to be working in an area, we've made a discovery ourselves, and we ask them to not work there, but you try to work with cooperation.
So they're very helpful because they literally show you where the gold is, right? And then you can drill to depth, because they're only mining the surface, like the first like 10 meters, right?
Anywhere from 10 to 20 meters, or like Randy Pit, maybe up to 30 meters deep, because we have deeper saprolite at Randy's. And so they can't mine the hard rock, so they had to stop. But as long as it's fairly soft rock, then they can use the same techniques that are done back in the California Gold Rush. You use hydraulic methods to wash down the material. You have sluice boxes to recover the gold, and then you clean off the mats, and then historically they use mercury to recover the gold from the mats.
So Dennis, you see the first results from phase 1. Do these impress you? Are they stronger than your expectations were?
Well, I think there are two things. To answer your question simply, yes. I think hole 4 is really fantastic, but the other 3 holes also show that we had the same structure, and it gives us a lot of confidence in the approach that we're using. The comparison when I drilled at the first holes in Marion that for what's called Godebergi, I had the driller sit up as close to the edge of the pit as I could, and we drilled 12 holes, and every single hole that I drilled for Alcoa was an ore hole. And so we're going to be doing about the same here. I think that we will continue to get good mineralization in every hole. The thicknesses and grades will pinch and swell, like Rayiez says, and that's standard for every single gold deposit in the world. And so what we want to try to do is better understand where the sweet spots are, and that's what we're working on right now.
Okay, very good. Let's go back to Oscar. Tell us about the share structure of Sranan. What was the price of the last financing? Who are some of the largest shareholders? Yeah.
We currently have 60 million shares out. The last financing was done in May, June of this year, where we raised a bit over $8 million. And very happy to say that probably half of that money raised went to institutions. We got 2 large institutions, 3 actually, out of Toronto. We got a Swiss fund that came in for quite a decent chunk. We got a fund out of Hong Kong. Really happy with the at our little size, the institutional support.
Who are the largest shareholders?
Metals Group and Insiders are a big chunk, and Mackenzie has about 7.5%. Scotia 1832 is about 7.5%. 9 Point out of Toronto, pretty decent chunk.
Yeah, so the 40-cent financing round, it was impressive to me because this is an early stage explorer, and you were able to raise a substantial sum of money with no warrants. How did you pull that off?
The Metals Group financed the first round without a warrant, and the second round was done without a warrant because the institutions that backed us said, we'll do this without a warrant. That's plain and simple. We obviously wanted to accept Scotia and Mackenzie and Conwave and 9 Point. They said no warrant. So that's how it went.
Very good. Yeah, that's impressive. I hope that more juniors are able to do financings without warrants. I actually, I prefer if they raise at a slightly lower share price and just have no warrants, because it really takes the lid, the ceiling off the stock, especially when the company has good results. Then it can really run, because people don't have that psychology like, oh, I'll just sell my shares and I'll keep the warrant and I'll still have upside.
Exactly. Yeah. It'll come as no surprise that we obviously took way less money from Vancouver because they want the warrant, and that's the only thing we'll keep.
Let's go back to Rayiez. So tell us about the progress of phase 1 drilling. How is the drill program going? How many meters are you getting per day? And where is the drill now?
Right now the drill is, I guess a bit farther north actually from Randy's pit. Right now we've drilled about 2,000 meters. And as I said before, we're probably going to aim to go 20-25 holes in between. And right now we're averaging about 90 meters of drilling per day. So, drilling is going smooth. We have a really great crew in the core shack. So the flow, everybody really found their spot once we're drilling, and the flow is really well. So we'll continue to work on Randy's for now, and then we'll hop on to some next targets early next year and try to unlock this 4,500 meter corridor that seems very promising now.
Tell us about the Poeketi target. This one looks especially promising to me.
As mentioned before, there was a gold rush there in 2020-21, and from our previous work and even now from the core that we see at Randy's, we think it's part of the same system that crosses the river to the northern side. And the difference between Poeketi and Randy is that Poeketi has less saprolite developed over it, so the rock is closer to surface, is visible. There's active mining by artisanal miners in there. So it's really at surface from our sampling, from the ongoing mining, from the mapping that we did earlier this year. The surface expression is of a trend there that's 1 kilometer long, right? The width, the direction is a little bit different than Randy's. It's a bit more northwest, whereas Randy's is striking a bit northwest. But similar. I expect something similar there. Maybe it's better. Maybe it's maybe Randy's better. I don't know yet. But it's just the landscape is a bit different. But there's part of the same structure that's really late, high damage corridor, as we've seen from the Mylonites. And the potential, for Poeketi even to the northwest, is really huge because it's open in that direction, and we have some early stage indications that which will push us to do some additional work in that direction also.
So the phase 1 drill program is supposed to be 10,000 meters in total. You just said you've drilled about 2,000 or so meters down near the Randy's area. What's the budget per target? I
think it's half almost. For sure we will drill. It depends on what we see at Randy's, but we're aiming something between 4 and 6, and the rest of the footage we want to allocate to Poeketi, which will probably amount to an equal number of holes. If you go 200, 150 meters on most holes, so it's almost half and half.
We're doing a lot of flexibility in our program, and we're very fortunate. In Suriname, we have a great local lab called Lab that's also used by the other companies, so we get good turnaround, unlike a lot of programs in Canada or elsewhere. So we can adjust the program as we go.
So at this point, the drill program is moving ahead of pace, and it seems to me like we should be getting assays maybe every 2 to 3 weeks from here on out. Is that fair to say?
Well, that's what I said, that we're getting them very good turnaround so we can adjust our program as sort of on the fly. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know that's what you said, but
Exactly.
as far
the
as
answer is yes.
but publicly reporting,
yeah,
sometimes
Dennis will churn out a release every 3 weeks, and that's it.
Okay.
No, every 2 actually.
Okay.
Don't push it, Oscar.
I think I'd do every 6 months.
So with 10,000 meters in total, that would indicate to me this drilling is going to continue well into February and maybe even March. Is that right?
Yes. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. It's busy. So let's go back to Oscar. What is the budget for this phase 1 program? How much will it cost the company? And tell us about the finances a bit.
We, as mentioned before, we raised 8.5 in June of this year, June this year. Net, that left us 8 million in the bank. We obviously had to get stuff to site and get up and running. So end of last month, we still had 5 million in the bank. We've got 42 people in camp currently, a drill up and running, looking to get the second drill up and running towards, somewhere in the new year, beginning of the new year. So that will start eating up quite a bit of money. Having the river in between those 2 targets obviously means that we have to double up on certain costs. The rigs will be a couple of clicks away from one another, so we need a second drill team. The current cost is about 250 a month or so. that we're spending.
Okay, that's not expensive in my book. I'm used to much more expensive drill programs in North America. Rayiez, so what do you consider to be the biggest opportunities here in phase one, and what are your objectives from the phase one program?
I think the amount of holes and the amount of work that needs to be put in the ground kind of unlocks what the extent of what we see. Because in the beginning, the understanding was, broader scale work, just a small exposed Randy's pit. But, the vision here is that even at Randy's, we see, potential of something at least 8 to 1 kilometer in strike length. It might be open in both directions. So the vision is to continuously unlock, with the potential there, and you only do that by drilling holes in the ground. And the same thing at Poeketi, which could have a bit more strike potential too. So that's the aim, basically, just to continue putting the work in, and it'll just unlock itself and reveal what's down there.
Very good. And turning to you, Dennis, what would you like to see, at the end of this phase one program?
Well, first we want to get some good mineralization so we can continue the program. That's the primary objective. As in any program, that's just the start. As you mentioned at the beginning of the show, we have 29,000 hectares, and we do see a number of other targets that we put there less advanced, of course. And so we would like to start developing those as we get along. And so I think the main thing is to start getting some idea of the dimensions of these deposits, and then we'll probably continue on. I mean, 10,000 meters, it sounds like a lot, but it's really not a lot of drilling. So.
Okay, very good. And I'll give you the last word. So tell us, Oscar, what did I leave out? What should shareholders and investors know about Sranan Gold?
Sranan is run by a team that has been in country for many, many years. It's been in country the longest than any other operator in country. We've got very good relationships with many, many concession holders. We've all done it before in Suriname, and we'll do it again.
Very good, gentlemen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thanks.